Encounter is brought to you by the Broome County Council of Churches, where we connect compassion with needs as we inspire growth with dignity. You'll find us in special places throughout the community. For those who remain hungry, we provide meals. For those who are challenged, we build wheelchair ramps. We comfort those who are ill, minister to those who are confined, and we remain an advocate for change and understanding on behalf of every element of our community. Connect and inspire. Encounter the Broome County Council of Churches.
Friends, welcome to the Encounter program sponsored by the Broome County Council of Churches. I am your host today, Mark Kimpland, the pastor at the Endwell United Methodist Church. I'm excited to introduce to all of you once again Maria Dibble, who is the Executive Director of the Southern Tier Independence Center, better known as STIC, who we had on this program, I'm thinking about 4 years ago, and it was an absolute joy to hear about what all this organization does. And Maria, I wanted to get you back on the show as quickly as I could. So welcome to the Encounter program.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
A lot has changed since the last time we got together. A lot has changed in the world with COVID and all kinds of things happening in the world around us. And I wanted to catch up and see how the Southern Tier Independence Center is doing and what kind of wonderful ministries you are still doing, even amidst the pandemic. So let's start here. For those of our listeners or viewers who have never heard of the Southern Tier Independence Center, can you kind of just briefly describe your work and tell our listeners and viewers what it actually does?
Well, Southern Tier Independence Center works with people of all ages and of all types of disabilities, so from birth to death and everything in between. And we can work with people for any number of reasons. Our goal is always to increase independence, self-sufficiency, and to help people live in the community as safely and productively as possible. And we have a variety of programs that will assist in doing that. We can help people with employment, finding jobs, learning those jobs, being coached during those jobs. We can work with people with disabilities who need help learning different kinds of skills. We can do skill building exercises. We can help people to realize what their goals may be for living in the community. And some people, it's a really simple goal. Some people, it's a very long goal that takes many years or even a lifetime. So we're here for the long haul to help people to be as independently as possible. We were here during COVID, and we worked with people during COVID, assisting them again to stay active as they could in the community. And when they had to stay home, helping them to get groceries and other things that needed to happen in order to keep them as independent as they could. So we're here to assist people. And if somebody needs assistance, they can call us at 724-2111, and we can provide them with a wide variety of services. And then you can also look at our webpage,
yes.
www.stic-cil.org, and you can see every single service that we offer there.
That's awesome. A question. What kind of, just for the person who might be hearing this for the first time, and it could be active or in the past history and such things, what kind of disabilities and such things are you working with people? Are there specific things that come to mind with, the things that people are trying to overcome? Can you shed some light on that?
Well, we have a wide variety of people's different types of disabilities. So it could be anything from mental health, blindness, deafness, cognitive disabilities. Somebody might have a traumatic brain injury. Somebody might be a quadriplegic, a paraplegic. We also work with people with intellectual disabilities and developmental disabilities. So it really goes across the spectrum of different kinds of disabilities. Probably if somebody has a certain type of disability, you've likely seen it. So, we've worked with people with ALS, we've worked with people with multiple sclerosis. So it really, it's a really wide array of types of disabilities that we meet the needs of.
That's great to know. And I think, as you're going through that list and such things, it just kind of piqued my curiosity that sometimes we forget what qualifies as that, and how people would struggle in their day-to-day, just in their routines of life. So thank you. I appreciate you clarifying that. I know our ministry in the local church, and I'm sure yours is too. It's bound to a budget, a yearly budget, and such things that we try to put together and try to look at our income and expenses and such things. But as you look at this budget cycle and such, what challenges or what important ministries and things are you looking at in this budget cycle through the Southern Tier Independent Center?
Well, it's been a very active cycle this year. Governor Hochul has been a very positive thing for people with disabilities, and she established, through a lot of advocacy from the disability community, she established the office of the chief disability officer, and this office, it's the office of the chief disability officer. It's a strange name, sorry. The office it's brand new, and it's going to work to assist people with disabilities in all types of advocacy efforts. And it's going to work with state agencies to make sure that they comply with the plan for accessibility. So we're really excited about that. That was a really big boon for us. We've been trying to get it passed for the last 3 or 4 years, and it finally happened. So that was a victory.
Great.
We're still working in the legislative arena, because as I'm sitting here, it's only March. I know it's actually going to air in April, so I don't know what the efforts will result in, but we are very actively working to increase the pay for people in home care. Now, home care, personal care, is a program that assists people with disabilities in their homes to do things like bathing, cooking, cleaning, helping them get in and out of bed, perhaps helping them to use the toilet. Very basic things that are really critical to the lives of people with disabilities who can't do those things for themselves. So we're pushing for this bill called Fair Pay for Home Care, and I hope when this airs, it will have passed. But it's a very large bill, and basically it's working to increase the pay rate, because right now people in home care they get $13.20 an hour.
Wow.
And you can work at Burger King for $15 an hour.
Yes.
So the message to people with disabilities is flipping a burger is more important than a human life. But we don't believe that.
Sure.
So we've been in coalition with a very large group of organizations across the state, trying to ensure that the pay rate goes up, because the shortage of aides in New York State is really critical at this point. It's very difficult to find a worker and to keep a worker for that kind of pay. It's not that the workers don't want to do the work, it's that they need to support families, they need to support their children, and you can't do that on $13.20 an hour. So this bill would significantly increase the pay rate to 150% of minimum wage, and that would make a huge difference, I believe, in recruitment and retention of workers. So that's a really big piece of legislation. Again, we've been working on this one for a few years too, and so we hope that the governor will be able to work that out with the legislature. Both houses of the legislature have supported it and put it in the one house budget. So that's a victory right there.
Yes. Yeah. That's thank you for sharing that, because we've all kind of lived through that, have heard about that, especially with the shortage of workers who just can't make ends meet at that kind of pay rate, and then you don't get the care that that people need. And so, that's a very real life thing. It sounds like I won't say a lot of the work, but there's a good chunk of what you do then deals with legislation so that you can pass bills to better serve your clients then. Am I right?
Yes, that's one aspect of what we do is called advocacy, systems advocacy, where we try to change a system, whether that be government, like, working it through a bill through the legislature, or it could be trying to change a regulation that exists already trying to work with state agencies to change regulations or change policies to better meet the needs of people with disabilities. So that is what we are about. And you can't really have the services without also having the advocacy. Because it's really, if you think about it, it's great to find somebody a job. But if the bus is not accessible that gets them there, or they can't use their wheelchair to go down curb cuts and travel to the job doesn't do them any good. So you need both. You need the advocacy and you need the services to work hand in hand. And that's what we do at STIC. Another bill that we're very eagerly trying to get passed is to repeal some of the more onerous regulations in personal care. A few years ago, it was changed. The eligibility requirements to be getting the service had changed, and it required 3 activities of daily living, unless you had Alzheimer's, then it would be only 2. 3 activities of daily living to qualify. So that would mean hands-on services like bathing, getting in and out of bed, using the toilet, things like that. It then would disqualify people who are totally blind, maybe, that need assistance going grocery shopping, may need assistance with just some basic homemaker types of duties, but don't need the hands-on care. They would totally be excluded. So we're trying to change that back to the way it originally was. Governor Cuomo pushed it through to save money, but it will be, and it hasn't actually gotten implemented due to COVID. So when COVID is officially labeled as done by the government, then that will go into effect. And so we're trying to prevent that.
Interesting. How does that affect, this is kind of a little bit off the track, but you struck a nerve with me. How does that affect like long-term care insurance for people with disability and such? Because you talk about there's 6 things that you have to, whether it be toileting or feeding yourself or getting dressed and such things. I never realized that may affect only a certain population.
Yeah, and most people with disabilities, not all, but most qualify for Medicaid. Mm-hmm. And that's the only medical insurance that covers long-term care services. Now, this year, the governor is proposing to put some of those long-term care services into the Essential Plan, which is part of the Affordable Care Act, and is the basic plan in New York State. It's called the Essential Plan. And that would be great because it would help a lot more people. And again, the qualifications for that, if they don't change, is going to be harmful and exclude a lot of people. So while it's great to expand the program to allow more people to benefit from it, if the people that are blind and maybe have some other kinds of needs that don't require, like a traumatic brain injury, for example, maybe they don't require physical intervention, but they do require some assistance with maybe cooking or cleaning or some of the other activities. Yeah. So we need to get those people included.
Absolutely. That's intriguing. Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate that. So you've discussed 3 pieces of legislation that are presently being discussed and hopefully passed. Do you see others down the road, Maria, that you're looking at, that you're hopeful that would pass down the road, or something that you think would really benefit what it is you folks do?
Well, we are constantly dealing with the issues of funding. And money to provide the services that we really want to, we'd like to expand our employment services, and we'd like to expand some of our other services that work to get people out of nursing homes and living back in the community. We want to be able to do those things. We lost a lot of funding during COVID because people stopped wanting services and workers quit. So we basically lost a lot of money, millions of dollars. So we're working to get some of that back, and the governor has proposed an increase, which we're expecting to pass in the budget, which will help us some, but it was a long time in coming. We went almost 15 years with only a real basic, 2% increase here and there. So We are way behind the 8 ball in that regard. And our philosophy is that we like to have people with disabilities whenever possible, working and sharing experiences with other disabilities, like using the peer approach. So it costs money to pay workers. They don't work for free. And the service is invaluable for people with disabilities to help them adapt to living in the community if they never did before, or readapt to living in the community if they experienced, maybe a stroke or something like that, and now they have a disability and they have to learn different ways of doing things in their lives that they didn't have to do before. So that's really, really essential. So we're looking in terms of legislation. I don't have anything that jumps up at me at the moment because we have some really important ones that we're currently working on, but there's always something.
Yes.
There's always something every year.
Sure.
Yeah. Either bills we're fighting against or bills we're fighting for,
Yes. Friends, our guest today is Maria Dibble, the Executive Director at the Southern Tier Independence Center. So glad that you're all able to join us here for this show. Maria, you talked a little bit about COVID and the last 2 years, which have been difficult all the way around and such things. How have you truly fared during this time of upheaval and change? And you talked a little bit about the budgeting and workers and such things. How did it truly affect what you were trying to do?
Well, it put a lot of things on hold. Just the agency was like at a standstill, just trying to make ends meet and to meet the needs of consumers, because we had a lot of people that live in the community, maybe live alone, and the isolation was terrible. Mm-hmm. That really had a strong impact on people with disabilities living in the community. We saw mental health issues develop and increase. We saw people who already had a mental health disability experiencing even more difficulty. The lack of counseling in the community, and people had to adjust to getting services via Zoom,
yes,
or telephone, and they didn't like that. Neither did we, but it was better than having no contact. But in some cases, sadly, some people didn't think so, so they cut off contact, which we felt badly about. But you can't force people to take a service they don't want. So, yeah, it's been a very tough 2 years. Again, we've got people on waiting lists now, and we can't find staff to fill positions. We have a program called Community Rehabilitation that works with people with intellectual disabilities and assists them in living independently in the community. And we work with people one-on-one, learning, teaching skills, helping them achieve goals, even goals of, maybe they want to lose weight and they want to go to exercise, go into the gym, things like that. And that program suffered the worst of all of our programs. So we're working on building it back, working on getting workers. We're trying to hire more people because we have consumers that are waiting for services.
As you're speaking, Maria, I'm wondering to myself, could you describe the network that is at STIC, from the staff to the workers, and so how many people are involved in some way, whether it be staff or a paid position or volunteers? Can you kind of unpack that a little bit, those layers as to just the organization and how you do all it is that you do with those people?
Well, we have a very large organization. I believe we have about 800 employees. And we have a board of directors that sets the policy for the organization, like all not-for-profits. Mm-hmm. Then I'm the executive director, and we have a leadership team that, works on making some decisions about the direction of the organization. We have supervisory structure, and like I said, it's just a tiered approach. And we have a lot of people who are working in the community directly with the consumers. So that's through our community hub program. And we also have what's called the Consumer Directed Personal Assistance Program. And that program it's a personal care program. But the difference between this personal care program and the traditional version is that in this program, consumers who are self-directing can hire and train their own workers. So they're not dependent on an agency. So it could be their next door neighbor, it could be their daughter, it could be a sister that will do the work, with only a very few limitations on who can be hired. So it's a way that people are able to get workers that sometimes they aren't able to get through the traditional agencies because they have a friend that's willing to do the work or something like that. So that's an important program. And that program at first got hit a little, but has strengthened and has come back right back to where it was before COVID, pretty much. There's another program that we run that is very highly used by the community, and that's our loan closet. So we have lots of different pieces of equipment, from maybe tub seats or commodes or wheelchairs or walkers, all different kinds of equipment like that people can borrow, or in some cases we give them away if we have an overflow. And that was stopped for a while during COVID, but there was such a demand for it that we figured out how to provide the program safely. And we would take, we clean all the equipment. We have a machine that does that. So made sure the equipment was sterilized, clean before it went back out. And we met people outside to diminish the potential for transmitting COVID. And that service did start back up during COVID, and was used a lot.
Great. Friends, our guest today is Maria Dibble, the Executive Director at the Southern Tier Independent Center. And I know that when we talked a few years back, you discussed the idea of your state funding and your budget and such things. Are there other fundraising events that you folks do that perhaps the folks in the community might be able to support?
Yes, we have a series of escapes rooms. And if you don't know what an escapes room is, you go into this series of rooms and you have to solve puzzles and figure out clues to make different things happen. And we have a theme, one that's called Valley of the Kings. It's an Egyptian theme, which is extremely popular. We have a wizard's kind of magic theme. We have a Twilight Zone room, it's themed room. So we have 4 different rooms, and the game is about an hour. And the idea is you have to get out of this room. Now, we don't really lock people in; they can leave at any time. But the idea is that you're in this room and you have to solve a whole bunch of clues to figure out how to get out. And you'll go through a series of rooms and you'll have puzzles, and then you might have to go back and apply one other thing or another, and you figure something out, and the door pops open. It uses electronics to make it really interesting. So we make use of technology and visuals, and they're very popular. And so we run 4 rooms, and you can look at our website and follow it to it advertises the escapes rooms.
Fantastic. And can you share again the phone number and the website for those that might have joined us late?
Sure. Our phone number is 607-724-2111. And our website is www.stic-cil.org.
We only have a few moments left, Maria. And is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners and viewers that you would like them to know, or perhaps clear up conceptions or misconceptions about what the Southern Tier Independent Center is? I want to make sure I give you the last word and the last reflection in our time together here today.
We're all about independence and helping people to be as independent as they can in the community. And we're all about disability rights. People have the right to live in the community like everybody else, and we do everything we can to support them in that regard.
And what is your background with with STIC? I never asked that. How long have you been with them, and what have you done through the years there?
I was one of the co-founders, so I've been here since 1983 as executive director. So it's been a growth process from starting out with a $100,000 grant and 4 employees now to multiple funding sources and almost 800.
Wow, that is amazing. That is wonderful. Now, what would you say to folks that may be hearing this for the first time or just joining this show and such things, and they'd like to be involved at some way or some level to help what it is that you are doing? Are there specific things that you could share with us for the person that might just right now just go to your website and check it out in ways that they might support your efforts?
Well, I just want to say that we always accept donations. That's one thing. But I
Mhm.
want people to know that people with disabilities are part of our community. They contribute to our community. And if you are a person that knows somebody with a disability or newly disabled or just disabled yourself, you have any kind of question, we'll try to get the answer for you. If we don't provide the service, we'll refer you to somebody that might provide the service. We're here to help. That is what we do, to foster independence and to improve the lives of people with disabilities. And people around them need to have the right opinion about us too. We're capable. I'm totally blind. I run an organization. We're capable of doing most of the same things that you are capable of doing. Now, you wouldn't want me driving a car, of course, but most things in life you're able to do them in one way or another.
I'm glad you said that, Marie, because one of the things I wanted to touch on as we kind of get closer to wrap up here and such is that kind of the biggest misconception of those with disabilities and such things, or what is the biggest misconception that you see in society regarding that?
Well, that is pretty much the misconception that is the most difficult barrier to overcome, is that people believe that having a disability means the end of life. I mean, I've had doctors say, well, you don't have a quality of life. Well, excuse me, but I don't think I want a doctor to tell me what my quality of life is. I know that I have quality. And I think it's the belief that people need to recognize that we are human beings just like you. We do things just like you. We have feelings just like you. And people with intellectual disabilities, same. There's a misconception that if you have an intellectual disability, you don't enjoy life or you can't contribute to the community. And that's just not true.
Amen. What a great way to end. Maria Dibble, the Executive Director at the Southern Tier Independent Center, I thank you. I thank you for the good work you're doing in our community. I thank you for your passion for that which you do. And we are blessed to have you here in this community. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Brothers and sisters, thank you for joining the Encounter program today. I wish you well and be kind to one another. God bless.
Before we go, here's another look inside the Greater Good Grocery, new to Binghamton's North Side. It's part of the outreach of the Broome County Council of Churches. Remember, all the proceeds from the Greater Good Grocery go into Council of Churches ministries and programs throughout our area. Encounter is produced for WBNG TV and for the radio stations of Town Square Media. We invite you to join us next week for Encounter.